But how did a handful of teenage hippies in 1969 create a multi-billion-dollar company out of some herbs they found in the Rocky Mountains?
Did they manifest it?
Well, they actually might have had some help.
From God?
From aliens. Why are you doing that?
I don't know. I just saw the Velcro and I was like, because I'm an ASM artist at heart. It's going to happen.
No, it's not.
I wish it. I secret it into the universe.
That's not what we're talking about on today's episode of Cult or Just Weird.
Are we introing now?
We're introing now.
Good. I'm Chris.
What are you?
I am a human data scientist. Actually, those
sounds good. I'm a human data scientist.
I am a real live human who sometimes does data science. And I actually haven't done it in a while. I just have an expertise in it. But I'm a game designer. I have done that recently.
I'm Kayla. I'm also a human.
I don't know about that.
I'm a human data.
You're human data?
Yeah.
You are human data. That's how Facebook thinks of you.
We're all human data. I'm a television writer. I have no expertise in anything.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Except for submarine cables.
Is that what we're talking about? Submarine cables?
Okay, except that's a cult of one, and I'm the only person.
Well, then that's perfect because you were the only person like truly equipped to talk about that cult.
Literally, everyone listening right now, please go Google submarine cables. The internet gets to us via cables on the ocean floor, and sometimes sharks bite the internet. And there's nothing better on this planet.
Literally, sharks bite the internet.
Sharks bite the internet, and it's a problem. Sometimes when
if
your
you're
internet goes
streaming
out,
this podcast right now and there's like a little bit of a blip, it could actually be because of a shark. At least if you're an international listener.
God willing, it's because of a shark.
Also, thank you to our international listener. Actually, we say that like every time. Never mind.
You know what? We actually have some thank yous that we actually have to thank today.
Oh, yeah. Well, so mea culpa, we were supposed to do the thank yous in...
It's actually mea culpa.
It's mea culpa?
As I'm saying that, no, I don't know.
Well, we're not looking it up live because one of us is going to feel like a moron.
I don't know.
All right. Well, I feel guilty. How about that?
That's true.
Because we had 2 new Patreon signups, 2 new patrons over our break, and I forgot to name names. I forgot to say who they were in last week's episode. So we're going to make up for that now. So thank you for supporting us, Megan Blackburn, and probably the best named patron we have, who is, their name is I See Spiders Where There Are None.
We love all of our patrons equally.
We love you all equally, but that's a damn cool name.
And we appreciate this name. So thank you. And if you want to join our Patreon, what do we post over there? We post bonus content, we post outtakes, we post games and little things that we do.
Yeah, so our bonus content, we try to do, actually we have done since...
Patreon.com/cultureJustWeird.
Yeah, since the start of our 3rd season, we've been pretty consistent about a bonus episode for each of our regular episodes. We actually published one of our bonus episodes on our main feed last season, for our last episode last season, where we talked about the making of the LuLaRoe documentary. And last week, we did some bonus content where we sort of played it's called like the Wiki Race or Wikipedia game. And it's where you try to get from like one page to another wiki page in as few clicks or as little time as possible. Except we did it on TV tropes because TV tropes is something we talked about with Mike Caulfield last week.
So head on over there if you want to support us, or don't. That's also okay. We just want to give you the content that you're itching for.
Yeah.
That was really lame. I don't care.
If you want to support us, give us money. If you don't want to support us,
that's fine.
Give us money anyway.
I would like some money. I think that we should get into it.
Get into the episode?
We should get into the episode because we've talked about, let's have shorter episodes this season so we're not asking people to spend 4 hours at a time on our content.
Yeah.
And I tried. I don't know if I
What does tried mean? No, am I going to be sitting here for 4 hours?
No, it won't be 4 hours.
How did we do that for Anti-Vax? How did we sit in one place?
I don't think I did.
Talking for 3.5 hours.
Disassociated. I have ADHD. I don't think I did that.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Do you have any business? More business?
No, my only business was to thank our patrons.
So like I was just mentioning, we wanted to do some things a little different this season. We talked about how we wanted this season to be more about, like self-care and things like that.
Yeah, and helpers. I think we did a pretty good job with that last
we did a great
episode.
job.
We
We're going to talk
interviewed a helper
about the self-care a little bit this episode. So,
oh, great. So we're going to continue with the theme.
Yeah. What are some things you do for self-care? Co-host?
What like me personally?
Yeah.
Does playing a video game while just like totally zoning out for 5 hours count?
I mean, I think it can, because that's also one of my self-care things. I think it can also not. I think that can be a self-uncare.
Yeah.
It just depends. It depends on how you use it.
Funnily enough, I've had that exact conversation with my therapist.
Yeah.
But,
Same.
So I think, sometimes it's a bit of a harm reduction to do that, and I think it's fine. I'm not like super guilty about it. But like, the healthier self-care are things like going on hikes. So I have like a consistent hike with a friend of mine that I do now. We try to do it every Monday, and we have for a few months. So like kind of getting out and getting active, like we've talked about on the show before,
right.
Touching grass. So that's one big thing. Getting enough sleep for me is big.
Yeah,
my sleep has a tendency to fall off. So, and then I think I've mentioned on the show a few times now, but hobby stuff. So like my hobby drawing is what I've been doing a lot lately, and that's,
if anybody hasn't gone and looked at our Twitter and looked at all of the art that this man does for our like little promo tweets, get on it, because he's a very good artist.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, we're not
on.
here to talk about that. We're here talking about self-care, but yes, I love that one of your self-cares is a hobby. I have a tough time with self-care. Like, I've gone to therapy a lot for that. Some things that I do, a lot of self-care for me is things like remembering to do chores. Like, sometimes I think we forget about self-care isn't just like using a loofah. It's like making yourself a meal that like has rounded out nutrition. Mm-hmm. It's taking care of the stack of mail that's sitting on your desk.
Right, giving yourself a living space that's like one you deserve.
Right. But I also like to do things. I love to take a bath. That's a big one for me. I love a good bath. Mm-hmm. I love to make myself a cup of tea. I love a good cup of tea, or I like to have you make me a cup of tea, like in the morning or at night, or even in the bath. Maybe put them together.
Is this a bath tea cult?
We'll get to that.
What? No.
Nothing beats a lovely little unproblematic cup of tea. What are some of your favorite tea brands?
No. We're not talking about tea.
Do you have any?
There's no way we're talking about tea.
Do you have any favorite tea brands that you, or like any?
We're talking about tea.
Do you have any tea brands that you like recognize? Even like name a tea brand.
Lipton.
Name another one.
Is there something like Nature's something or other, or
Probably.
Mother Earth? Does that
keep going?
Mother's Nature.
That's probably a tea.
Nature of the Lipton Mother. I don't know. I'm not big up on tea brands. If you told me, I'd probably hear it.
What about Celestial Seasonings?
Oh yeah, Celestial Seasonings.
You know Celestial Seasonings.
We have some of those in our closet. I'm pretty sure in our pantry.
We do.
Don't we? I'm like
we should definitely check after this.
Sure.
Yeah, it's the super famous tea brand. It's in everybody's grocery store. It's in everybody's closet. It's at least in your parents' tea. Like, anybody's parent has Sleepy Time tea in their like cupboard. And for our listeners, you might remember this specific kind of tea. It has a little cute little bear on it in like old fashioned pajamas with the sleepy cap. Yeah, the Sleepy Time tea bear.
Wait, so Sleepy Time is Celestial Seasonings?
Sleepy Time tea is a kind of tea sold by the Celestial Seasonings
I see.
brand.
I didn't realize that. Because I recognize both of those names.
Yeah, of course you do. Maybe you'll remember that each box and tea bag comes printed with inspirational quotes.
Sort of.
Well, that's a thing.
Sort of remember that. Kayla, I have a question.
Yeah.
Are we still talking about self-care, or did we smoothly transition into the topic?
We're talking about the topic now because I have bad news. Celestial Seasonings was started by a cult. And I'm not kidding. And I am very sorry. You don't even get to like enjoy a cup of tea without being reminded that this world is full of like crazies and grifters and new age weirdos trying to weasel their way into your lives. No, I was trying to talk about self-care, and then this happened. So
why does this always happen?
Well, I'll tell you why this happened. It's because I was scrolling TikTok.
Oh, okay.
I was scrolling TikTok, and then a specific TikTok popped up on my feed. It was a short video from TikTok user @Cressy and like it says, quote, She's holding up 2 boxes of tea, and she says, if I had a nickel for every time I found out one of my favorite tea brands was created by a cult, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
Wait, no, twice?
I immediately sent this to you, and then I like deleted it because I was like, no, we have to do this on the show. I thought about it for a minute, and I was like, we got to do this on the show.
Oh my God.
And so I Googled Celestial Seasonings Tea Cult. And guess what? This is a big, huge thing, and I am shocked that I did not know about it already. There is a ton of information about this claim. Like, there's articles, there's other TikToks, there's social media posts, there's blogs, and it's fucking crazy.
Wait, twice though? What's the other company?
Hold that thought. We'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
A lot of those initial returns on my Google search eventually became the basis for my research on this episode. So thank you to Food and Wine, to Inverse, Thought Catalog, Cracked, Funding Universe, Raw Story, Reddit, TikTok, and a now defunct website about sleep news called Van Winkle's. Great title. Great title.
Are they talking about the sleepy? Is it specific? It's not specifically the sleepy time tea that's the call, right? It's actually Celestial Seasonings.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
So on Van Winkle's, I want to specifically call out an article written by Megan Giller titled Cults, Conspiracies, and the Twisted History of Sleepy Time Tea. So just big shout out, big thank you to everyone who wrote about this situation.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so in 1969, a young man named Mo Siegel had an idea. Around this time, he was tapped into Boulder, Colorado's health and natural food culture and even sold Asian herbal tea. In 1969, in the States, herbal tea was still somewhat novel in larger circles. Are you okay?
I'm just, we're talking about tea.
Yeah.
Okay.
The word tea actually traditionally refers to the beverage which originated in China and is made using the leaves of the Camellia sinensis plant. So, like, every single tea that is traditionally tea, it's all made from this plant. So, green, black, white, yellow, and oolong teas.
What about Earl Grey? What about Earl Grey
Hold
hot?
on.
Oh.
Hold on. Hold that thought. Those kinds of teas all come from this one specific plant. And, like, those teas generally contain natural caffeine from the plant.
Okay.
Herbal teas, however, do not contain leaves from the Camellia sinensis plant. So the word tea in that name is actually a little bit like misleading or a misnomer. Herbal tea usually refers to a beverage made from non-caffeinated plants and like leaves, herbs, flowers, and fruit. Often herbal teas will carry medicinal claims such as promoting sleep, like sleepy time tea, relaxation, supporting recovery from illness, improving fertility. But those claims are generally not supported by Western science, but are supported by other health traditions such as like traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda.
Gotcha.
Anyway, before I get on a tea rabbit hole, let's try to get back on track.
Tea hole?
Yeah, tea hole.
You gonna tee us off on this topic?
We are teed off. In 1969, many Americans recognized tea as the more British-influenced beverage. So again, think your black teas, your English breakfasts, your Earl Greys.
Tea, Earl Grey, hot.
Think about, what is that?
It's Captain Picard.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
his
it
favorite
is.
beverage.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, like Picard, we think of the Brits, we think of like the Tea Party or high tea. That's just kind of what we're thinking about at the time.
Oh, the Tea Party.
Yeah.
So Tea Party, what were they throwing over?
Like black tea.
Black tea?
Yeah.
Okay.
That the Brits were stealing from
because it was the East
their
India
colonies.
Company.
Yeah.
Right.
Green tea, I think, and others were around to some recognition, but herbal tea was largely still reserved for natural food spheres.
Okay.
So Mo Siegel decided to change that. Now, again, this was 1969.
Mm-hmm.
Mo Siegel was a typical flower child hippie.
Okay.
He had a group of friends that followed that same lifestyle and were on board with the idea of bringing herbal tea to the forefront.
That's smart, like from a marketing standpoint, yeah.
The group of friends started going on hikes in the Colorado mountains to forage for herbs to come up with tea blends they could then sell to local stores, shops, and businesses. I think they initially found like 500 pounds of herbs or something.
Just in the mountains?
Yeah.
Damn.
Just in the mountains.
Good for them.
They harvested that 500 pounds of herbs, came up with Sleepy Time tea. That was one of their first blends.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said this is in Colorado. So is that herbs or is that herb?
It was by a man named Herb.
It was actually by a man named Herb.
No, it wasn't.
Oh. Well, you know what I mean. Sometimes you can get sleepy time from herb.
I think there was a lot of herb going around in this company in the early days.
That makes a lot of sense. But that was like that weak sauce, like 60s herb. Though.
Yeah,
like
kill you. The weed we have now would kill them. Like, honestly, the weed we have today is, whew. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the sleepy time tea that they first blended. Mm-hmm. And they knew, like, okay, we have a business on our hands. And they named it Celestial Seasonings.
Okay. So did they have the sleepy time product yet, or was it still just Celestial Seasonings, general?
They had they harvested those herbs and used it to create the sleepy time tea blend.
Okay. And so then Celestial Seasonings was the business, and their first product was sleepy time tea.
There was sleepy time tea, and there was another blend called like Moe's 36 herb tea or something. Those were like the first two.
That's not as catchy.
No, sleepy time tea is the one we all know. I think you might also recognize like Red Zinger. That was another one of their biggies. It wasn't one of their first. Celestial Seasonings was, to say the least, a huge hit.
Right.
Distribution soon reached across the entire country. By 1974, they reached $1 million in sales per year.
That's pretty. You said they started in '69 just foraging?
Yep.
Okay, not bad.
International distribution by 77. By 83, annual sales were at 30 million.
Whoa.
By 84, they were so big, they sold to Kraft Inc., like Kraft Foods.
I've
Kraft.
heard of Kraft.
You have heard of Kraft. Kraft
They make
dinner.
the Blue Box mac and cheese.
Yeah, they do.
And they also own the Patriots.
The company got... Wait, they do?
Bob Kraft, dog.
Oh, fucking Bob Kraft. We're not talking about Bob Kraft. This company, under Kraft, they got bigger and bigger, and Mo Siegel himself became wealthy, powerful, connected. He had, like... I don't really understand. I think he stepped away at this time when they got sold to Kraft.
Okay.
But then he eventually bought his own company back by exchanging it for another company he had founded. He founded this other company called Earthwise that was like cleaning products, and he was like, "You can have this, and I'm going to take Celestial Seasonings back."
So Mo Siegel sold his tea company to Kraft and then bought it back from Kraft?
Yeah.
But he didn't buy it back with cash? He did like this weird company barter?
I think so. I think so.
Hell?
There's a lot of history about this company. He says that he bought it back when I think Kraft got bought by Philip Morris or merged with Philip Morris or something,
okay.
and he was like, "No."
I mean,
and took his company back. I'd do it.
Yeah.
And it was a good idea because sales hit 50 million in 92.
Okay.
The company
Smart buyback.
went public in 93 to great success. By the mid-90s, when sales were at $70 million per year,
Holy shit.
Celestial Seasonings controlled 51% of the herb tea market and is still the largest manufacturer of herbal teas in the U.S. today.
51% though?
In 2000, Celestial Seasonings merged with Hain Food Groups to form the Hain Celestial Group, a company that has an annual revenue of $2.5 billion.
Oh, that's big.
That is huge.
That's some big tea. I would say he's probably mongering at this point.
I think he is big
monger.
tea. This is big tea.
This is big tea, yeah.
So
What does Mr. T have to say about all this?
I think it's a different kind of tea.
Oh.
Celestial Seasonings. Kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, its former CEO, Mo Siegel, retired in 2002 from Hain Celestial Group. He's quite a rich and powerful man today. He cuts a recognizable figure among entrepreneur and business circles.
Sure.
But how did a handful of teenage hippies in 1969 create a multi-billion-dollar company out of some herbs they found in the Rocky Mountains?
Did they manifest it?
Well, they actually might have had some help.
From God?
From aliens.
Oh, from aliens. Yeah, of course. Right. Naturally. Yeah.
Okay. The story from Celestial Seasonings is that they got their company name from the hippie nickname of one of the founders. Supposedly, a woman named Lucinda Ziesing, her nickname had something to do with celestial. And then they named their tea that.
That doesn't sound that...
That's the company line.
Yeah, that doesn't sound crazy.
But in Megan Giller's article for Van Winkle's, she poses a different theory as to how the company got its name. Quote, "But there might be another reason they named it Celestial. Mo Siegel and John Hay, two of the founders, were avid believers in a New Age Bible called the Urantia book, which followers call, quote, an epical revelation authored solely by celestial beings, unquote.
So written by aliens.
The book touches upon everything from mind control to a eugenics plot.
God, why does it always come back to eugenics? God damn it, Kayla.
To eliminate the inferior races of our great nation.
Oh my God.
Let's just pause for a moment and take it in. Why does it always go back to eugenics? What is it with these New Agers?
I don't know. Do I need to go throw away some tea? Do I need to go check?
I don't know.
Throw away a racist ass tea?
I mean, we'll get to it, but
holy shit! I mean, granted, like eugenics does mean the later words, but usually people don't spell it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is I just need you to go. I just need you to keep talking.
Megan Giller goes on to report. Quote, in fact, the religious text is responsible for much more than the name of the company. In another book called You've Got to Read This Book, 55 people tell the story of the book that changed their life, Mo Siegel discloses that the ideals he gathered from the Urantia book guided how he ran Celestial Seasonings from the beginning and provided a moral compass for himself and his employees. I had wanted to be bold. I found bold, he wrote. I wanted spiritual adventure, and I was on the ride of my life. I was searching for truth, and the book was loaded with it, end quote.
Cool. I'm glad this guy that's like a very powerful multimillionaire now is a eugenics dude. That's...
Well, his religion is a eugenics religion.
Oh, sorry. He believes his moral code is based on eugenics. Awesome.
But what is the Urantia book, you might ask? Well, it's super simple. It's very simple. The Urantia book is a 2,097 page.
Whoa! Whoa! Is it pictures at least?
2,097 page philosophical religious text written by an anonymous author sometime between 1924 and 1955. The content of the book was supposedly transmitted directly from aliens to an anonymous male receiver who then manifested, dictated, produced the text.
So that's some seriously verbose aliens.
It was published in 1955 by the Urantia Foundation, an organization dedicated to the dissemination of the book, which remains active today. The Urantia book contains many ideas similar to Seventh-day Adventism and is divided into 4 sections. Part 1, the central and super universes. Part 2, the local universe. Part 3...
It's like a whole cosmology of like...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's good they're dividing it into parts because... It's 2,000, pages.
Yeah.
That's
it's a lot. Part 3 is the history of Urantia, which is actually the book's name for Earth. So Urantia is Earth.
Okay.
Part 4, the life and teachings of Jesus. This is the largest portion of the book.
Why is Jesus in this?
Because the book states that basically all recognized religious figures in Christian theology, so Satan, Adam and Eve, Jesus, etc., these are all aliens who came to Earth as part of a never-ending cosmic quest to elevate, evolve, and enlighten the beings residing on said planet.
Classic.
Again, from Giller's article, quote, the book also purports that there have been many, many sons of God, like Jesus, on many different planets because there are 1 billion worlds. When evolution is complete, each of these worlds will have 100,000 local universes with 10 million inhabited planets. Our Earth is called Urantia, and it's number 606 in a planetary group named Satania.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 616.
I wish.
Oh, man, it was so close.
Planetary group named Satania, the headquarters of which is called Jerusalem. When we die...
Oh, okay. Whoa.
Very creative.
All right.
Hold on. When we die, we're reincarnated from planet to planet, then finally to paradise where the deity lives. There's a little piece of the deity in each of us called a thought adjuster. End quote.
Thought adjuster?
I don't like that.
This is very scary.
It sounds like something from 1984. Not the rest of it, but just
wild shit.
The phrase thought adjuster. And I looked into it, and like I get what they're saying, and like I couldn't explain it to you. Go look on their website. It's not as scary as what they're saying, but just the phrase thought adjuster.
No, it's not
scary.
a good phrase.
I don't like it.
Kayla, we're not trying to control your thoughts, merely adjust them.
So super simple, right?
I guess. I mean, I have
We'll get to your questions.
Okay.
The Urantia book has been translated into almost 24 languages, and it is even the basis for a well-known operatic cycle. Because the source of the text is supernatural, it is not protected by copyright laws, and thus the Urantia book is in the public domain.
That, as you recall, was a bit of a contention with Ramtha and Jay-Z Knight.
Yes.
Where she was like, I need to make me money off of channeling Ramtha. And so she had to admit or say in court, I guess, depending on your belief, she had to say that Ramtha was something that she made up.
Well, but the problem with that is that there's no guy around to be like, this is mine. It's an anonymous guy. The ruling that it was in public domain, I think, was in 95. So 40 years after it had been published. So it's like, I guess the foundation could go and be like, hey, no, but I don't know. It's public domain now.
Right. Also, like,
there's
nobody was like selling classes, I think, the way that Jay-Z Knight sells classes on Ramtha.
So does that all make sense to you?
No, none of it makes even a lick of sense.
No, it shouldn't, because like so much new age stuff, this shit just about aliens and evolving the human race, like it just gets hella dark, obviously.
I mean, it started dark with that statement about eugenics. Yeah. I was just going to say, I really like how all of these, every time there's one of these like weirdo, it doesn't even need to be weirdo. It's just like somebody craps out a new religion. It always has this aspect of like, oh yeah, all the previous gods are like totally part of the thing that we said.
So just go read that book, but just remember that we said that was aliens.
Right. It's like, do you believe in Jesus? Oh yeah, that's actually us. Yeah. That's good. So you could just come right on in. Do you believe in a different one? Oh, that's us too. That's us too. Actually, it's all us. So you should just. It's really we are the one true religion, as it turns out.
The Urantia religion. So let's get into it. I guess we're already in it.
No, we're in it.
Let's continue squirming around.
You are spilling the tea.
Get out of here. The Urantia book was likely written in the early 1900s by this guy named William S. Sadler. He was a surgeon, a psychiatrist, and I'm putting that in quotes because psychiatry was like the Wild West at this point.
Yeah, that was like when Freud was like, shit, that's science.
Yeah. He was also a quasi-spiritual debunker who wrote about like the various tricks mediums use to grift people, which is very interesting.
The guy who wrote...
Just hold on.
Okay.
Around 1911, one of his neighbors began having weird fits in his sleep, and the neighbor's wife asked Sadler for help, so our boy Billy Sads and his wife, Dr. Lena Sadler, came over to observe the neighbor multiple times, and eventually he began to talk in his sleep, except it wasn't actually him. It was quote-unquote student visitor spiritual beings communicating through his body, and eventually these visitors began to communicate via writing, via text, and also the Sadlers obviously took copious notes, and this went on for 10 years.
So this guy's talking in his sleep, and then these Sadler bros come over and take notes?
Yeah, because the guy goes, I'm an alien. I'm aliens talking to you.
Oh, okay.
And so William Sadler and his wife are like, we're two doctors. We are people of science. This makes sense. And take notes from the aliens.
Okay. So they began credulous of the alien thing, not something's going on with your sleep, more like, oh shit, it's probably aliens.
That's what it seems like.
Okay.
Eventually, a group of Sadler's friends and colleagues, so he had this group of friends, coworkers, former patients that would get together to have a salon about religious
what
stuff.
Now?
A salon.
What the fuck is that?
A salon.
Oh, like salon.
A salon.
Okay, get out of here, Frenchie.
A salon. I'm just gonna keep saying it. About religious and stuff. They would talk about religion, and they got wind of it because William Sadler went hey, I'm doing this thing. He talked about it and then was like, oh no, I really shouldn't be talking about this. Then
this whole thing sounds very try hard.
They became very interested. So then the group came up with 4,000 questions to ask the celestial beings communicating via the sleeping neighbor.
Okay, that's a lot of questions.
The answers came in the form of fully written papers. And those papers were organized by Sadler's group, now known as the Forum, and eventually that became the Urantia book.
Okay, so salon elite weirdos say to Sadler and his cohort, hey man, I heard that you have access to this alien channeling thing. Could you ask him the following 4,000 questions?
Well, they all Sadler and his friends all came up with these questions together.
Okay, so they all got into a room where they and also Sadler were writing the aforementioned 4,000 questions.
Yeah.
And then how Sadler then asked these questions of the sleepy guy?
Yeah.
While he was asleep. He was like, hey man, what's the meaning of life?
Yeah.
And then he would reply back in alien voice, like, 42.
No.
Oh, no, you said papers.
He only replied back in talking for like a few years, and then he replied back in writing. And I thought that he was like writing, but then
Was he sleep writing?
Hold on. The Sadlers claim that the written answers materialized in a way that they don't understand.
I also do not understand.
So take that with a grain of salt. I don't know what that means.
Okay, so it's they ask him questions while he's sleeping.
Yeah.
Question
and then some
mark.
papers show up.
Papers happen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and then these papers,
Yeah.
which are the magically spawning paper answers to their questions, you collect all those together and you get a Urantia book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, the Forum of Sadler and Friends eventually became the Urantia Foundation, and they published the Urantia book in 1955. The original members of the Urantia Foundation closely guarded the identity of the sleeping neighbor so that the focus would be on the content that was communicated to him rather than on him as an individual. They didn't want him to be like the Messiah because he was just a conduit.
Right. I was thinking actually 4,000 questions. So that's they answered 2 questions per page. So all of a sudden now
that's pretty good. Actually,
yeah, the page count doesn't seem so bad.
What's more likely than all of that, though, is that William Sadler wrote the book himself. Possibly with
Kayla?
The help of his brother-in-law.
Blasphemy.
Both were Seventh-day Adventists. The book is heavily influenced by Seventh-day Adventism, and Sadler had been duped by a Seventh-day Adventist medium previously. So...
Good job, debunker. So is this going to happen to me someday?
No, because the next thing I read to you... It's not just the presence of Seventh-day Adventist memes in the Urantia book that points towards Sadler having authored the text himself.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the deeply eugenicist philosophies present in said book, because guess what? William Sadler was a full-blown eugenicist.
Well, he was a doctor in the late 1800s, so that was kind of the fad.
It was. I should have done like a content warning up top, but I'm going to do it here. Like we're going to talk about. We're not going to talk too much about the like eugenicist ideas, but we are going to talk about the like we're talking about eugenics right now.
And
so
eugenics
if you don't want to hear about eugenics, that's okay.
If you've heard of things like the Holocaust.
Yeah. If that's not your jam right now, totally understandable. That's what we're diving into. As a teenager, William Sadler worked at the Seventh-day Adventist health resort, Battle Creek Sanitarium.
I've heard of Battle Creek.
You may recognize that name because it was run by the infamous Adventist businessman, John Harvey Kellogg.
Oh, yeah.
Like cornflakes.
Yeah, the cornflakes guy.
Kellogg's cornflakes.
Yeah.
Was invented by a Seventh-day Adventist in the 1800s.
He was a weirdo. It was like to get people to stop jerking off or something,
Literally that. It was part of the clean living movement. So this was a movement at the time that promoted things like vegetarian lifestyle, temperance, not drinking, bland health foods, enemas were a big thing, moral purity. He developed cornflakes as something called an anaphrodisiac, i.e. he believed that healthy foods lowered the sex drive. Having lower libido was like more moderate, was more clean, was more healthy. So,
So had he just never had cereal milk ice cream? Because that shit's delicious.
No, because that didn't get invented until many years later.
Oh, well, he needs a time machine then.
Yeah, think about that the next time you reach for a bowl of cornflakes. Anyway, you should also think about the fact that John Kellogg was also a raging eugenicist.
Right. He was a bad man.
He founded something, literally spent the last 30 years of his life dedicated to the cause of eugenics. He founded something called the Race Betterment Foundation.
What a mensch.
Tried to create a eugenics registry.
Get it?
No.
Because it's uber mensch. Never mind.
God,
It's a eugenics joke.
Get away from here. He tried to create a eugenics registry. He was pro-forced sterilization of those he deemed quote-unquote defective and was anti-quote racial mixing. Not great.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
So William Sadler was personally mentored by him.
By Kellogg?
By Kellogg.
Son of a gun. So wait, so you're telling me that one racist food mogul mentored another racist a guy who was going to then
a racist
inspire
new age mogul.
Another racist food mogul.
That seems to be what happened.
All right.
And I don't think, we're going to talk about it a little more later, I don't think that Mo Siegel is the level of pro-eugenics as these two gentlemen that we're talking about.
Okay.
I think it's one of those things that's more like, I don't think he's out here writing like manifestos about pro-eugenics.
Right.
But he's also not doing that, and we'll get to it in a little bit. We'll get to that.
Is it the type of thing where it's like the more time that has passed between like now and the Holocaust, the more people are like, oh, maybe eugenics is not that bad. It hasn't led to anything bad, has it?
But I mean, we'll get to that. I want to, it's like I'm in this weird place where it's like I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but also I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because he's like a rich white guy, and we need to stop giving those guys the benefit of the doubt.
Also because it's scary to not give him the benefit of the doubt, because if you're not giving him the benefit of the doubt, then he is a truly evil person that has a lot of money and power.
That's most people.
And that sucks balls.
That's most people that have money and power. Like, it's just unfortunate. And we'll get to it. We talk. I want to get through the history of it so that we can talk about him with the full context.
Right. It's a sociopath's world, and we're just all living in it.
William Sadler, in his lifetime, he published not one, not two, but 3 pro-eugenics books after working
in addition to
John Kellogg.
In addition to the religious text?
Yeah. 3. All of them were about racial degeneration, heredity, how the world's ills could be traced back to a lack of eugenics. He did not have good opinions.
Oh, boy.
And this isn't just one tie to John Kellogg either. He wasn't just mentored by him. He married John Kellogg's niece.
Whoa!
So remember I talked about Dr. Lena Sadler?
Yeah.
Yeah, her maiden name was Lena Celestia Kellogg.
Celestia.
Celestia. She was also a published eugenicist, FYI. And after he worked for John Kellogg, he went on to work for John's brother William Kellogg, who was a health food salesman, and William was likely the guy who helped write the Urantia book. It all comes back around.
Okay, so it's just a big eugenicist circle jerk.
Yes.
All these guys getting into their salons and talking about how great racism is.
So yeah, William Sadler was literally steeped in both eugenics culture and health food culture. I don't know if the health food culture thing had any eventual influence on Mo Siegel directly. Maybe it did. I don't know. I just wanted to point out that connection between, like, even if there's not a direct connection, it's just another example of how there is a connection between health food and fucked up beliefs.
Yeah.
And that definitely repeats itself over and over and over.
Wellness in general.
Yeah. Wellness gets connected to fucked up beliefs, and that happened here with the Urantia connection, the Urantia whatever, and then also Celestial Seasonings.
Right.
And then everything else we can talk about. Yeah.
At least the early,
Right.
Today's Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, whatever, probably
not.
Probably okay. But the original sort of like body purity,
right.
That sounds exactly like we're just saying body fascism.
Yep. Okay, back to Sadler and his fucked up beliefs. Some of the shit he wrote about in his 3 eugenics books would later be directly lifted and placed into the Urantia book.
Okay.
Because, like we mentioned, the Urantia book is also hella eugenicist.
Right, cool. Yep.
To quote Megan Giller again, quote, "The text itself is weighed down with some of the most racist ideas I've read in a long time."
Well, that's saying a lot in 2022.
She wrote this actually in 2015.
Oh, okay. That was back when we weren't aware of like all of the like cesspool of racism online.
This was pre-QAnon.
Right.
She goes on to explain one of the most egregious examples from the book, the 6 races of Urantia. Sorry, everybody. Apparently, 500,000 years ago, there were 6 races that corresponded to 6 colors, so red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and indigo.
I feel like I've heard shit like this.
There's a hierarchy between those races,
naturally,
with some races inherently inferior to the others. The blue race represents white people, and they are destined to subjugate the indigo race, or black people.
Okay. Yep. This all sounds super great. I feel like this... there was a number of races that were all... like, remember how we talked about tropes last episode?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a trope. Like, I feel like I've seen that, and maybe it's like all from this Urantia book or something, but I'm pretty sure I've seen the, like... you have like 5 or 6 or 7 races, and they're all associated with a color.
Right.
I think I've seen that in like other racist spheres.
You know what? I need to go back to something that I was saying 2 seconds ago. I was like, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. No, I fucking don't.
Yeah,
no, I need to not do that, because again, it's like, fuck you. If this is the belief that's in your book, you're a fucking racist. You're a eugenicist. Fuck off. Like, I shouldn't be sitting here going like, I'm scared to call Mo Siegel a racist. No. I'm a white person. I have the privilege to call Mo Siegel a racist.
You heard
He's
it here
a
first.
fucking racist.
Mo Siegel is a racist.
And it should be...
Come at me, bro.
Yeah, come at me, bro. Sorry, go sue my company. You believe this shit.
Sue Culture Just Weird for all of our $0.
Yeah, have fun. Remember how I mentioned earlier that various religious figures are all aliens who came to Earth as part of a never-ending cosmic quest to elevate, evolve, and enlighten the beings residing on said planet?
Ancient aliens, baby.
Yeah, so the Urantia book claims that on every single one of the 100 billion planets or whatever in the universe, aliens known as Adam and Eve show up to, quote, upstep the humans living there.
Oh, Uplift. Actually, the Uplift series by
Upstep.
David Brin is a pretty good sci-fi series.
It's pointed out that Adam and Eve are always white and blue-eyed. The story goes that their children are supposed to have babies with the acceptable races and have more babies. And by doing so, they will eliminate the inferior stock, quote, in favor of a purified race.
The word stock that these guys always use, it's like, I won't go into it because it's probably not something I should say on the show, but you should check it. There's a good Key and Peele bit on how, like, what precisely was so offensive about Mel Gibson's rants that he did a few years back. But anyway, it's just, it reminded me of that, where it's like almost like the most offensive the word in that sentence is the word stock. It's just, it's so like, it's like
dehumanizing. It's literally
bluntly dehumanizing.
Dehumanizing language. And so again, it's like, I don't care what Mo Siegel personally believes. If this is like the book that has helped guide his life, and anybody that's involved with this, you have racist beliefs. Yeah. You are steeping yourself in racist beliefs. It's bad, guys. What?
Steeping.
Oh my God, I'm so funny. Okay, so according to this book, this is where it turns into an anime. This Adam and Eve...
What?
This is like an anime. The Adam and Eve eugenics process is supposed to happen on every universe until every planet is unified, but on Urantia, it got fucked up.
Oh, here on Earth, it got fucked up.
And that's why we have so many problems on our planet. It's all because
of the inferior stock.
It's because we haven't eliminated our, quote, more markedly unfit, defective, degenerate, and antisocial stocks.
Oh, my God.
I mean, the book literally calls out Africans, Australian Aboriginals, uses the word eugenics as a prescription for worldwide prosperity. We have evil and diseases and sickness because we haven't eugenicsed hard enough. These are bad ideas. This is not good stuff to have in your head.
I don't have a react. I don't like it's.
But apparently, somehow, this is the religious text that wooed Mo Siegel and these other founders when they created Celestial Seasonings. He found this book in 1969. He founded the company in 1969. It's the same year.
I thought we were going to talk about nice stuff.
No, we're not.
The show.
Maybe you're wondering, like, hey, just because someone has certain religious or spiritual beliefs, like, that doesn't mean that those beliefs went into the creation of the company. Like, just because he was in something that literally has called itself a cult.
I mean, maybe it was just his personal beliefs.
Followers of the Urantia book are requested by the book to foist out Christianity with a, quote, new cult. The book calls it a cult. Just because the founder was into this, like, that doesn't mean the company sprang from it, right?
Right. It's maybe just his personal belief.
No, I'm sorry. No. Because from Megan Giller's article, quote, after studying the teachings of the Urantia book, I knew that it would feel selfish and wasteful to simply focus on material success, Mo Siegel said. So as a young man, when I began thinking of what I could do to make a living, I immediately turned to the health food industry. The ideas in the Urantia book were the inspiration for the uplifting quotes we print on the side of our tea boxes and on our tea bags.
The inspirational quotes are from a eugenics book?
They're not from the book. The idea to use the quote, I looked this up. Some of them might be, but they use little quotes from various texts and various people. But the idea to use inspirational quotes came from this religion. The article continues, quote, Mo and John used the Urantia book as a guiding principle and continually quoted from it. Caroline McDougall, the company's 5th employee and the current founder and CEO of something called Ticino, she said this. At staff meetings, they would even use quotes to bolster their arguments. Quote, it was a guide for making sure of the moral values that underlay the company at the time, she added.
Okay, so it wasn't just his personal belief. It was
No.
very much in the company's DNA.
Yeah. He said, I made this company because the Urantia book told me to, and then I built the company in the Urantia book's image.
Okay, so if I go and look at the Celestial Seasonings tea in our pantry, am I going to be like, one of them's going to be like, leap and the net will appear, inspiration, don't quit. And then I go to another one and it's going to be like, white people are the superior race. Like, is that, am
Maybe.
I going to?
I don't know. It wasn't a passing fad either. This wasn't a phase. Mo Siegel is still a follower of the Urantia book.
Okay, so it's not like he hasn't done an interview. Because I was going to ask, like, couldn't he just get up and be like, I was crazy back then. Kind of like they do with best friends. You know, they're like, I was crazy.
Again, and this goes back to me being like, I don't want to call him a racist. Yeah, there's no evidence here that he's not. He still follows the book. In fact, he is currently the president of the Urantia Foundation.
Oh, so he's the president of the racism religion.
The worldwide organization dedicated to spreading the word of the Urantia book and acting as stewards of the text. He hosts weekly study groups of the text at his home. He is still in it.
Okay, so not only has he not bothered to denounce any of this, he is still, like, going full bore.
And he has espoused eugenicist ideas himself.
Okay.
In the Van Winkle's article, Megan Giller found a quote written by Mo Siegel on the Urantia Book Fellowship website. It's in a section called, quote, the 20 most asked questions. She writes that Mo stated, quote, illness and disease result from evil and cause suffering. Unfortunately, several factors hinder progress toward the development of a disease-free world.
Oh boy,
the laws of genetics are immutable.
There it is.
And form the physical cornerstone of evolution. At the present time, mankind loses about as much progress as it makes by ignoring eugenics. I read this and I did not believe it. So I went to check myself. I headed over to the 20 most asked questions section of the Urantia Fellowship and looked for this quote. And I could not find it. There was no explicit mention of the word eugenics or even the rest of the quote from the article. That's funny. I wonder where the author got that quote. I wonder where Megan Giller got this quote from then.
Right.
And then I remembered that she wrote this article in 2015, and I'm looking at it in 2022.
Oh, was it deleted?
So I headed over to my favorite place on the internet, the Wayback Machine, and I looked up a version of the page published before 2015.
And just to be clear, the Wayback Machine it's a website, and you can go there and you can look at they basically archive as much as they can. They archive the internet, so you can look at previous versions of pages. You can look at old pages that don't exist anymore.
You should donate money to them because they are doing the Lord's work.
Oh, the Wayback Machine is absolutely like one of the most important like institutions of our time.
Yeah, literally. That's not an exaggeration. It's not a joke on the show.
No.
So I went to the Wayback Machine, and there it was, staring me in the face, and it was so much worse than just the poll for the Van Winkle's article.
What?
I'm going to read the whole thing to you.
It was worse than what you already said?
I'm going to read the whole thing to you. It's a little lengthy.
Okay.
Is that okay if I read you a couple paragraphs?
I am okay with that. Listeners, are you okay?
Hope so.
They told me they were.
So this is in response to the posed question, when will illness and disease abate or end?
I'm pre-triggered.
I mean, he doesn't say like a slur, but it's not good. As noted above, illness and disease are unlikely to end so long as evil remains in the world. Modern medicine is heavily oriented toward alleviating the discomfort and effects of illness. Great strides are being made towards extending the life of those who are ill or diseased. It is beginning to make headway toward preventing or curing many dread diseases, and can make even more progress. But it is far from preventing or curing all diseases. For reasons indicated below, we should not expect a major reduction in illness and disease until our planet begins its settlement in light and life. Unfortunately, several factors hinder progress. This is the quote that was pulled for Van Winkle's. Unfortunately, several factors hinder progress toward the development of a disease-free world. The laws of genetics are immutable and form the physical cornerstone of evolution. At the present time, mankind loses about as much progress as it makes by ignoring eugenics.
All right. So he uses the E word in a plus, in a positive sense.
Throughout the ages, struggle and disease have destroyed weaker stocks and allowed only stronger stocks to survive and procreate.
Okey-dokey.
Even so, physical progress was slow. Civilization is reducing the purging effects of struggle, and modern medicine is preserving weak and disease-prone human stocks to procreate, thereby creating a larger population of weaker and disease-prone individuals to suffer such diseases. The future of humanity depends, in part, upon the quality of genetic factors which dominate its populations. And again, when I was like, let's give him the benefit of the doubt earlier, I fucking forgot all of this. He wrote this. He co-wrote it, quote unquote, but he fucking wrote this. He put his name on this, and he had this on the internet. I still have more to read. He had this on the internet in the year of our Lord 2015. This wasn't 1915.
Right.
This was 2015.
Right.
And
right.
I can't say for sure, but it seems like he took it down just because Megan Giller found it.
But it's on the internet, dude.
I know, but they took it down. They took this part
Clearly
down.
yeah.
After 2015. But it was there until 2015.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like that's Megan Giller didn't like break into your house and crack open your safe and find this quote. This was on the internet. So like it's just so weird to me sometimes, like these guys where it's like they'll publish something for the public to find, and then the public finds it, and they're like, oh, shit.
Whoops. The quote continues, ironically, the techniques used by modern medicine to increase the number of disease-prone individuals inadvertently followed the laws of genetics to create hardier breeds of diseases to attack them. Just as pesticides, by killing off weaker bugs, have created strains of superbugs resistant to pesticides, so have antibiotics and other drugs created strains of supergerms and superviruses resistant to conventional methods of destruction. Industry, which provides food, shelter, clothing, transportation, etc. to preserve the weak and increase the quality of life for everyone, also adds toxins to the environment, which in turn
toxins, classic.
Cause more diseases, some of which are new. That's the end of the quote. But that's the entire... So she pulled that one eugenics quote out of a much larger quote that's
like even more pro-eugenics?
Yeah.
And even more nut job?
And again, this was on the internet as latest... Like, this was on a part of the website with Mo Siegel's name on it as late as 2015.
And there's another thing here too where I'm just like, what makes you think that you are an expert on genetics? And I know that's a dumb question to ask. Well,
actually, we'll get to that.
Oh, we'll get to that too? Okay. But, not to bring up the Jay-Z Knight episode again, but like, it reminds me of the quantum flapdoodle thing where it's like, there's this scientific theory out there. There's this piece of the scientific understanding of the world, and then like whack jobs latch onto it and then think they understand it and then just go way off the goddamn rails. Right. So like, again, with what the bleep, right? And with much more that happens with quantum mechanics. And it's like this is what it is with genetics, with the study of evolution and biology. It's like you get these guys, and it's like how does I guess you said we'll get to that, but it's
we'll get to it a little bit.
How do you this guy, his quote is talking about like, well, this is how it works.
I founded a tea company, so I know everything about. But it's because he believes his religion. He thinks that his religion has the truth of this thing.
But it's like, bro, you don't know how this works. You are not a biologist. What are you talking about right now? You made tea.
So again, this was removed. This is no longer on the live version of the site post the article that Megan Giller published. Mm-hmm. But given the content of the book and given the fact that this was up until there was like an expose done of it, I do not have any confidence that Mo Siegel and the folks heavily involved with the Urantia book have actually changed their tune about eugenics.
No.
Maybe they're just trying to like hide it a little better. I don't know. But they're not trying to hide it that much better. In 2010, and this I found this in a number of articles. I'm referring to it as rumors. We'll get to that. In 2010, rumors swirled that the Urantia Foundation put together a panel on eugenics and considered the information unsuitable for the website, and so it would only be disseminated to followers deemed, quote, forward-looking enough. Hold on.
Oh my God.
Again, I'm calling this rumors.
Okay.
One man rumored to be part of the panel was named Kermit Anderson, then the genetic screening program director at Kaiser Permanente in California. I think we might get killed. I think we might get killed for this.
Fine. I don't want to live in the world you're describing, so...
I could not find any evidence of this eugenics panel outside of like Giller's report and reports by others. Like I couldn't find an official Urantia document being like, we did a eugenics panel. So I have no idea if this happened, if it's conspiracy theory.
Right.
Giller claims that both Mo Siegel and the Urantia Foundation didn't respond to her attempts to connect. So like maybe this claim's a bit wild, but it's not that wild. While I cannot confirm the veracity of a 2010 eugenics panel, I can confirm that a man named Kermit Anderson has followed the Urantia book teaching since 1969, has hosted weekly study groups of the book in his home for 40 years, served in leadership positions in the Urantia Book Los Angeles Society, and currently hosts Symmetry of Soul, a weekly 2-hour broadcast of Urantia book study. And he worked for 30 years in the fields of medical genetics, genetic counseling, and genetic screening at Kaiser Permanente in Southern California. Do you remember a few days ago?
I am very scared right now.
When I was sitting on the couch doing my research.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I looked up and I said, this is really bad.
Yeah.
This is really bad.
I
that's
don't want,
that's what I read.
I do not want this. And it's just so
this
scary.
This information is all part of his written bio on the Symmetry of Soul website. So it is from his mouth. Sorry, I'm like rubbing my
face right now, which is why my nose sounds weird.
So a very powerful man in the field of genetics, and not just like genetic study, like he worked with patients, a man who is a very high up authority on genetic testing and study, is also a very high up authority in a religious organization that espouses eugenicist ideals. Also, there's tea involved somehow.
Kayla, I understand. Like, this is why I'm like, I kind of understand anti-vax. Because, like, you sit here and you go, like, oh, I wonder why we don't have any trust in institutions anymore.
Yeah.
God, that's fucked.
Yeah. So there's that. Just dropping that little nugget for you. Remember how we were like, let's do a nice season? I tried, you guys. I really tried.
I did.
And then episode 2 happened, and then this, and then this. When I saw the TikTok, I was like, ooh, this will be fun. It was not fun at all.
Fun little tea
This
cult.
is one of the worst things I think I've ever covered on this show.
It's probably going to be like a weird, like, hippy-dippy flower children.
Like, this has to be one of the worst things I've talked about.
Oh, for sure. This is on par with, like, creativity. I mean, this is, like, hyper racist.
I need to remind our audience that while Mo Siegel is still the president of the Urantia Foundation, he no longer runs Celestial Seasonings or Hanes Celestial Group. He's been retired from them for 20 years. So perhaps you can drink the current iteration of Sleepy Time tea without having to worry you're funding eugenicist thought. But I know that I'm probably not going to be drinking it anymore, and I'm probably going to like look at that box a little differently now that I know its origins and what the people who created it believe in.
Yeah, so I didn't like. Yeah, like when you said cult, I'm like, okay, it's gonna be some weirdos, but like, this went like way racistier than I thought, and not just like racist. Like, there's like eugenics is real bad. Like, it's not just I don't care for this.
I'm calling for genocide. I'm calling for like.
Yeah, it's bad in a way that has proven like vastly effective in the real world at killing large numbers of people.
And guess what, eugenicists? Eventually it will come for you.
Yeah.
It will come for you. Your philosophy will eventually come for you.
Right.
Because guess what?
Ugh.
None of us are an Ubermensch.
No.
I should also say the Urantia book again. It's a 2,000-page text. It's not all about eugenics. Maybe there's some other stuff in there that's like super nice, but like.
Well, it's like the
But
Atlantis
it comes with
thing,
a side
right?
of eugenics,
Yeah,
so it's tainted. It's fucked up. It's not to be followed. It is a book that should be thrown into the garbage.
Just like that Dune book that I couldn't.
That was also about genocide. If you are wondering.
Sorry, not original. I love Dune.
No, not original.
Just to be clear, all the way up through Chapter House, it was a newer copy. You know what? This is not what the episode's about.
If you are wondering, the answer is yes. Mo Siegel is still rich and well-connected.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He's currently the owner of Capital Peaks Investments. He serves on 5 food company boards of directors, 2 financial boards, 2 nonprofit boards, including, at one point, Whole Foods and Great Outdoors Colorado. And, of course, he's still the president of the Urantia Foundation. Woohoo!
Kayla, I feel really bad now.
So that's
can you give me something here to?
Honestly, no.
Okay.
No, I can't.
All right, I'm gonna do a callback to the thing we were talking about, weed. I'm just gonna go just blaze the hell out after this.
I might have to go smoke some weed after this.
Holy shit.
Are you ready for the criteria?
Call.
Charismatic leader. What are we doing? Okay, here's actually the question. This is actually a serious question for this.
Yeah.
Are we evaluating the Urantia Foundation or are we evaluating Celestial Seasonings?
I say we do both. Can we do both?
Sure.
So
charismatic leader.
I am not. Yeah, so the Urantia Foundation, what we would call that is the, not Mo Siegel, but the other guy,
Sadler, but I wouldn't call it Sadler. I would call it the book.
The book itself is the
because
leader?
it's like an anonymous book. Like, the thing that's drawing people into this is not William Sadler. It's the book.
If you put together William Sadler with the Sackler family, you could call them Sad Sack.
They are a bunch of sad sacks.
Sorry.
Really wealthy, though.
I am not convinced as to how charismatic these folks are, but clearly Mo Siegel must have been charismatic enough to be a leader of a multi-million and eventually billion-dollar sales company.
I think the Urantia book only has a few thousand followers, if that helps. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to say it's present, unclear on how charismatic it is when we're talking about Mo Siegel.
Okay, so Urantia book, charismatic leader, yes?
I'm going to, no.
I'm saying
for Urantia
yes.
Foundation, no. For Celestial Seasonings, yes. To summarize, we are saying, yes, Mo Siegel is at least the presence of a charismatic leader. Tough to say how charismatic, but certainly enough to like succeed in his business.
Be a billionaire.
And for the Urantia Foundation, we're saying, not really. Like there's a book, there's a guy that wrote it, but it doesn't really have a leader.
Okay, sure. What about expected harm?
Seeing as how eugenics is responsible for some of the worst harms that have ever befallen us as a civilization.
High in Urantia. What about the tea?
It's about as high as it's ever been on the show.
Yes. But with the tea, I feel like you could go your whole life drinking the tea and never even brush up against the eugenics thing.
But the cult isn't purchasers of said tea, right? Like, hopefully, anyway. The cult is the company itself. People that like have to sit in a boardroom with Mo Siegel as he cites the book of racism and Seventh Day Adventism or whatever.
Right.
So in that sense, I would say like it's high even for Celestial Seasonings because it is promulgating and giving life to said ideas.
Presence of ritual. Okay, actually,
tea, baby.
So I didn't really get into this, but like if you go to the Urantia Foundation website, it is very intense. Like there are offerings for weekly study groups. There are like courses that you can take. There's this weekly broadcast. There's like walls and walls and walls of information and text. Like you are supposed to be really steeped in the ritual. I keep saying it, and I don't mean to. You're supposed to really be marinating in this.
You're supposed to be percolating.
As far as Celestial Seasonings, I don't really know. I know that they were really like, and I think maybe I talk about this later, but they were really like they helped pioneer the like casual laid back company, baby. Like I think they were smoking weed. They were like, we don't have company cars, we have company bikes, like that kind of thing.
We don't have paid time off here. You can just take off whenever you want. Fuck you, Celestial Seasoning. It sounds like there's maybe some, so it sounds like high for the foundation, but for Celestial Seasonings, the company, I would say unclear.
Yeah.
But it does sound like there's potential for it because it sounds like, again, there was probably some pretty weird meetings at that company.
There's probably some really weird
where
stuff
like
going
it
on.
started normal and then somebody was like, yes, but as it says here on page 97 of the holy text.
Right.
And then all of a sudden that Friday meeting is like, whoa.
I picture it being very similar to if anyone's watching Severance, how they refer to like the company
exactly
text as basically religious text.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was picturing.
You guys should watch Severance.
Watch
if you're
Severance,
listening.
is real good.
Niche. So Urantia Foundation, Urantia book only has a few thousand followers.
So that's niche.
Celestial Seasonings, a $2.5 billion company.
Not niche.
Not niche.
Yeah.
Biggest herbal tea manufacturer in the States.
Not niche.
Anti-factuality. Again, I think it's high for both New Age and just because of the New Age
bullshit
beliefs.
and then the like.
The sleepy time tea is. Their fucking tea is a fucking New Age bullshit. There's nothing to say that the sleepy time tea is actually going to make you sleep. There's nothing to say that they're fucking like bullshit
placebo.
immune support tea or any of those other shit. Sorry,
Right, it's
I'm
all
really
shit.
mad. I'm sorry.
You're right. It's all shit. And then as far as like the eugenics thing goes, like there's so much, again, just to rehash, there's so much flapdoodle going on there of like, it's about the science of how the biology works and the evolution. And it's, if you do this, then, the weaker stock.
Right.
Like there's just a lot of like, I don't know what, I'm just making shit up.
Right.
So I'd say pretty high.
Life consumption. Well, for Urantia Foundation, or if you follow the Urantia book, that's like they recommend that you study the book, or you at least go to a book study once a week for 2 hours. But there's probably daily readings. I get the sense that like the people that are really in it are really in it. Like, I mean, Mo Siegel has been in this since 1969.
That's true.
Kermit Anderson has been in this since 1969. So many people involved. If you go on their website on the leadership, it's like, I've been involved in this since high school. I've been involved in this for 40 years. I've been involved in this for like huge, huge portions of my life.
People get into weird shit, man.
I can't do anything. Like,
What the hell?
I can't even make a habit out of like going to like a support group, and these people are like, I've done this for 40 years. I'm like,
Yeah.
how? How do you? I mean, I don't want to do your thing, but I would like to know how you can like stick to something.
I couldn't even stick to Catholicism that
Yeah,
long. I mean, that's like, they have a much longer track. I don't know.
And great ritual.
I know.
I mean, with ritual, great.
Yeah, the blood of Christ.
To be determined.
Okay, so I would say, actually, for the Urantia Foundation, it sounds pretty high because it eats up the rest of your life
40 years
to a
of your
certain
life.
degree.
Yeah, you make entire companies based on it. Everything
yeah.
in your life is built around it.
And then I would probably need to hit up Glassdoor to really get a good sense.
I should have done that. I really should have done that. Ooh, maybe that'll be be the bonus content.
That is definitely going to be the bonus
We're
content.
We're going to dip into the next door.
Go subscribe to our Patreon so we can tell you we can spill all the tea.
Oh my God.
From Glassdoor.
2 mugs full.
All right, what's next?
Dogmatic Beliefs.
So dogma is the sort of like, we're right, everybody else is wrong.
I mean, I didn't necessarily get the sense of that. I also didn't look into it a lot.
Tough to say.
I think some of the like, when you subsume another religion under your like umbrella that feels a bit dogmatic, it's like, no. You think you know Jesus, we know Jesus.
Yeah, although on the other hand, would dogma be more like, oh no, this is the correct religion, you dumb Christians, right? Like, is it not dogmatic to be so like big tent, like, oh,
Sure.
Jesus, he's actually just part of our thing.
Right.
I don't know. It's at that point, I think I'm like sort of like I'm out of my element in terms of like the language we're using here.
It's just hard it's hard for me to say that eugenicist beliefs aren't dogmatic.
Eugenicist beliefs certainly are. But I'm wondering if the larger religious stuff, and then for Celestial Seasonings, the company, I'm not sure.
Right.
I think I would need more information as to like, don't go work for that other tea company where all they care about is making tea.
Chain of victims.
I
feel very victimized, personally.
Seems like there was a chain.
Honestly, I'm very upset that I spent so much of my life drinking cult tea.
I
really
feel
pissed off about
I feel like there's a chain here where you learned about something and then I had to fucking hear about it.
Sorry. And we're telling everybody else.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But the chain of victims, I don't know, it doesn't seem like very recruity, although I will say for the religion itself, the fact that we talked about sort of like 2 steps. We talked about the founding of it, the writing of the text, and then many years later, somebody found it and then used those teachings in his company, suggests that there's some chain there, but it doesn't have the same sort of like MLM or QAnon where like you get somebody into it and then they get somebody into it and they get somebody into it and you lose the distinguishment between victim and recruiter. So I'm going to say low.
So overalls, Urantia Foundation versus what?
Can we do one more?
Yeah.
We talked about maybe doing another one.
Do it.
Adding a 9th criteria.
Add it.
It's how easy or difficult is it to leave this organization? The more difficult, the more culty.
I don't get the sense that you're going to be excommunicated if you leave the Urantia Book Foundation, but I do question why people are in it for so long. Because again, I'm like, who does something for 40 years? But I guess, plenty of people are religious their entire lives. It's just we're more used to somebody being a lifelong Christian or a lifelong Jewish person or a lifelong Muslim.
So where we got this, or where we started talking about this anyway, was when we did that interview with Stephanie McNeil about the LuLaRoe doc.
Right.
And they were talking about how, like, if you, stop selling LuLaRoe, then you're, like, fucking, like, pariah. And we've seen that before with things like, that was the case with Twin Flames Universe, right? Like, there was sort of this in-group, and then as soon as you were out of it, it was like, don't fucking talk to them. Like, well, we will kill you if you talk to this out person.
I don't get that sense for either of these places.
Okay, so
Yeah,
low for that.
I think so.
Okay, so weirdly, this seems like a mix.
It seems like a mix, and yet I'm calling them both cults.
But I think that like because it like scores so off the charts on expected harm, I think like we have to call
It's a cult.
cults.
They're both cults.
It's like because that one's such an extreme outlier, I feel like it makes
Yeah.
it's sort of like, either you can score pretty high on everything, or you can be a mix, but like you are literally the best in show for one particular criteria.
Right.
So because they're so high on expected harm, yeah, I think that's warranted.
Cults.
Cult. We should do like a sound effect. Have we talked about that?
Cult.
Well, thanks for like ruining my day. And
Wait.
What?
Wait.
No, my day's already ruined.
Before we wrap up. So, maybe you want to steer clear of a cult-founded tea brand. Maybe you're like, Celestial Seasonings is not for me.
I would prefer a more terrestrial seasoning. Thank you very much.
There is another tea brand that I love. So, instead of reaching for Celestial Seasonings, maybe we can reach for another grocery store ubiquitous brand, Yogi Tea.
Okay.
No, sorry, that's a cult too.
What? Is this the thing where you were on TikTok?
Remember how that initial TikTok mentioned that she'd have 2 nickels for every time a tea brand turned out to be a cult?
Oh my God.
Yeah, Yogi Tea is the second one.
Kayla, please.
Yogi Tea.
Are they like regular cult? Do we have another hour and a half show to talk about this?
We'll get to that. Yeah, no, we don't. Yogi Tea was established in 1984 by Yogi Bhajan, a self-styled holy man who came to the States posing as a guru. He established ashrams, garnered a large following, claimed to have special abilities like seeing the future, and put himself on the radars of folks like complicated figure Steve Hassan. His teachings were, like Steve Hassan was like, this guy's a cult leader.
Okay.
His teachings were less traditional than like, that he claimed it was Ayurveda, but it was like less traditional than that. And it was more like he was saying, this is Ayurveda. It was really new age bullshit.
Right. Okay.
And he created his own tea blend. His students then named it Yogi Tea. Like he would do these, whatever his classes, and then
liked
he would
Yogi
serve
Bear.
this tea,
Yeah.
Yogi Bear. And then he exploited his followers and like encouraged them to establish businesses to sell his tea. And eventually it grew into a $30 million or more company.
Oh my God.
After Bhajan's death in 2004, content warning for sexual assault, dozens and dozens of women came forward reporting all manner of sexual assault from their former guru, including rape and other things that I'm going to choose not to report on this podcast. Just know that it gets real bad, and fuck that guy. And even though he's dead, I am not drinking his tea. Get the fuck out of here, Yogi Tea. I'm not even going to do a full episode on you. That's all we're going to talk about for you. So, yeah.
So what can I drink?
That's the story.
This is why I'm a coffee guy.
The tea that I make, that I hand blend. The tea in there that
well,
we have. That is
now I don't
my
trust
blend.
you. Now I'm like, what are you doing that
don't
you
know.
decided to blend some lavender and chamomile together? Why does this happen twice? Like, why does this happen with 2 different tea companies? Is it just that I haven't heard about it for coffee companies?
What? I think that I'm going to ask you to hold that question, because that might be a future topic.
Wait, are you serious? There's
Yeah.
coffee cults now?
No, not a coffee cult, but why this has happened more than once.
I mean, I was just going to... I don't
You
know
can
how that's a
speculate.
future... My speculation was going to be... I was actually going to retroactively, like, change my grade for a ritual to be high, because I actually think maybe there's something to do with, like, how ritualistic tea...
Sure.
is in sort of just in the culture in general, like especially like Eastern cultures. And it, like you said, it ties into this sort of like ancient medicinal practice where
Right.
like medicine and ritual and lots of other disciplines, like it wasn't so separated the way we have it now, where
Right.
it's like you get tea at the grocery store and you get medicine at the doctor.
Right.
And so maybe that's sort of like when you trace that back, tea being so integral to some of these practices
Right.
is what lends itself to being a little wacky. And then some of them just happen to become billion-dollar businesses.
It's got to happen to someone.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, so I guess I just need to not drink any more of this fucking tea.
That's the story of how 2 beloved tea brands turned out to be run by cults. And that's the story how one of my chosen self-care methods is now inextricably tied up in the bullshit that we're trying to escape from, We can't fully get away from it.
Yay.
And you know what? That's okay. We just have to be okay with it sometimes. Like, I can't control what the most seagulls of the world are going to do. The cults are all around us. And part of self-care is understanding you only have so much control over it all. And I'm not saying, like, just go and drink celestial seasonings with abandon. I'm saying in order to preserve your peace of mind, you have to accept that you cannot fully eschew this stuff from your life. And sometimes you have to just drink a cup of tea and not go to the Wikipedia for it. You just have to let that cup of tea be a cup of tea.
This is Chris.
This is Kayla.
And we have been spilling the tea here on
Cult
or just
weird.